All right, so with the stage being set, now I invite Mr. Sanjeev Edward, Honorary Secretary, Air Cargo Forum India, and Chief Commercial Officer Aero of Delhi International Airport Limited. I would like to congratulate Sanjeev and his team, as Delhi Airport has recently been judged as the second busiest airport in the world. So many congratulations to the trade. Earlier to this role, Sanjeev has also headed the cargo business of DIAL, and he's been a board member as well as the past chairman of the Air Cargo Agents, the International Air Cargo Agents Association, TIACA, and he's also worked in British Airways World Cargo for a decade. So very warm welcome to Sanjeev. One more round of applause, please. I would now request the panelist, Sri Atul Kumar Singh, IRS. He is an officer of 2008 IRS batch. He holds a degree in Masters in Public Finance from GRI PS Tokyo, Japan. He's worked in financial investigation, policy making, and technology. For last 3 years, he's led the initiative on IceGate and has been instrumental in rolling out various online services, promoting paperless, contactless, and faceless customs. He's been awarded the WCO Certificate of Merit also in 2022. Very warm welcome to Sri Atul Singh. Next, I invite Mr. Kamesh Perry, CEO, Chelbi Delhi Cargo Terminal. He is a seasoned professional with 30 years of senior leadership experience in South Asia, Middle East, Europe, Africa, and North America. His former experience has also been with Lufthansa Cargo, Menzies Aviation, and he is currently the CEO for Chelbi Delhi Cargo Terminal. Very warm welcome to Mr. Kamesh. One round of applause, please. The next speaker for the panel is Mr. Ramesh Mamidala, the Chief Cargo Officer for Adani Airports. He's worked with renowned organizations like Aishar, Emirates Group Dubai, Mercator, Qatar Aviation Services, and Gati. He was associated with Chelbi Delhi as CEO in the past, and he has also worked on various initiatives like Sky Cargo Logistics Complex, as well as NDA, Doha, Cool Chain and Temperature Sensitive Product Handling. He is a B Engineering from Osmania University, Hyderabad, Master of Planning Transportation from School of Planning, New Delhi, and MBA from Bradford, UK. Warm welcome to Mr. Ramesh Mamidala. So he's joining us virtually. He's here. Our last panelist is Mr. Satish Lakharaju, Senior Vice President, Viz Freight. He is the alumni of the prestigious SVKM's Narsi Monji. He started his journey 28 years ago with TNT. He has worked in various capacities in AFL and DAXA. His last assignment was CCO with Agility Logistics. He is a passionate speaker about life sciences and unbroken cool chain infrastructure across the cargo supply chain. So very warm welcome to Mr. Satish Lakharaju. I now hand over the dais to the moderator, Mr. Sanjeev Edward.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. And I was told, that there's lunch immediately after this session, so always there should be some anticipation beyond this as well. And though you see the panel is smaller, but as technology improves, the size gets smaller. So it's not that small panel, but I'm sure they've got a lot of insight which they will bring into it. So, and I'm also looking forward to that. And in fact, I couldn't be here personally in the morning, but I was listening to the speech by the Honorable Minister during the inaugural session, and I think very, very insightful. And I think some of the statements which he made really very inspiring. And he said, that this is the dawn of a new era for for cargo, and especially, I mean, those of us in the air freight industry would have seen, and he made a very pertinent statement which kind of registers, he says, from cargo being the underdog to a super dog kind of a positioning. But more importantly, you know, what I liked about what he said was that there are three areas which obviously we need to focus upon, and one is obviously, he said, you know, this area about how do we connect to our tier 2, tier 3, because you know, India is a huge country, there's a lot of opportunity, and many times we can there's a risk of us getting too focused on the bigger cities. But if we really want the country as a whole to thrive, we really need to think about the hinterlands as well. Secondly, he talked about, you know, there's a transshipment opportunity, a multi-modal opportunity, which obviously we need to be looking at. And thirdly, you know, the ease of doing business. And you know, those of us from the cargo industry know very well that you know, this is the industry which is very, very come to the prominence now. I mean, some of the numbers, I was just kind of, it's always good to reflect back and see how important role we play in the bigger scheme of things. And you know, we do, most of you would know, we do about 52 million tons of cargo annually as air cargo, which moves somewhere around the world. And in just a span of about 24 hours, we do 100,000 flights somewhere around the globe. But this movement which happens is about almost a little shade under $6 trillion of business, which is a lot of responsibility on the industry. You may not feel it, but you know, this is what we are, and it has been proven, you know, by the COVID, that you know, we are people who are in the business of doing very responsible business. There is also the humane side. There are thousands of people every day who are getting, you know, lives touched, you know, vaccines, treatments, life-saving equipment which moves around, and all of it, you know. One statement which comes to us, some statistics which comes to us, that you know, 35% of, you know, value of the goods moving around the world is air cargo, but just 1% by volume is what air cargo moves. And I see the 1% as a huge opportunity. And I think as we now come and talk to this panel about, you know, the air cargo deliverables, there's a lot of things that I'm sure our audience is looking at. The audience is a very distinguished audience, people who are, you know, experts in their own field of work which they're doing. They are in a way accomplished in what they've done. But really, if we want to, you know, capitalize on this opportunity of 1%, you know, even if we have to make a small shift, it's a huge gain for air cargo. How do we make a shift from where we are to taking it to the next level? So this 10 million that we're talking of, you know, since morning, and I liked even during the audience, some questions were coming for the 10 million. So which means that the number is registering. And, you know, the simple mantra for everybody, if we really want to go along with the industry, is, you know, grow the volumes, make the pie bigger, everybody benefits out of it. So, and then, you know, that's the whole thing. If 10 million happens, I'm sure each of us will get a small pie of it, and that'll be big enough. I mean, just to give you a perspective, I think this year we'll do about 3.2 million tons is what we're looking at. So if we look at 10 million tons, you're looking at, you know, 3 times the growth, you're looking at 3 times the opportunity. And you know, this is where, you know, our panelists come in, because we're talking of this air cargo deliverables. So just as my opening questions, you know, to each of you, just to put, you know, the 10 million number into perspective, maybe I'll first start with Satish, with you, and then I'll come to Atulji. You know, this vision of achieving 10 million by 2030. I mean, what do you understand? I mean, where do you see are the key opportunities, and how do you think you can contribute to achieving it from where you are in the supply chain?
Sandeep, thanks for the question. And I think what we all need to understand is that for the first time ever, government has put some number in place, because you never ever thought cargo as a community so seriously in the last so many years. But first thing at least is that you've got to decide on some number called a 10 million in terms of a tonnage in the rest. This is the first step towards this whole process of, you know, trying to build the whole air cargo ecosystem in the country itself. So now from where this number has come, it's come on a particular base at which we are today. And also let's keep in mind that India per se, and if you look at it, there's Manoj here, there is Keku and rest of them. Our air cargo industry is predominantly driven from the 4 or 5 airports in this country, sort of it. And today, when you saw the rest of them speaking also, we were talking about smaller airports and rest of the activities happening. Hyderabad probably is one airport which has grown in the last 5, 10 years in terms of a certain number. But really today, I think what is important for all of us to understand is the opportunity that is there before India is on twofold. One, there is an internal demand because of our population and the population being young, which could be one of the reasons that the driver will work against any other country. The second important aspect is that, with no disrespect to any country or anyone, we did not make India the hub and we let the hub shift into some other part of the world. We could have kept the hub here for many years and we could have built upon it. So the transshipment aspect also, which you were touching upon, even as of today and yesterday's World Bank's article said that to move a cargo from Bangladesh to India, it takes 153 hours and 55 signatures. I think we need to get to a situation to understand that if you're putting a number and saying 10 million, along with that, there are certain other things that ecosystem needs to be built in. And if that does not happen, the 10 million dream will remain a dream. And then all of us will be talking in another air cargo forum here. And I think what is important for all of us to hear is that the commitment and passion at which we want to build it should be monitored even by ACFI year on year as what is the progress that we are making and track it down. Unless we do that, this 10 million will remain a 10 million and it will only be that again on a glass of wine, someone says, why did we do 10 million, should have done 7 million? That will be a question. So that's my opening remarks clearly in terms of it. The number has come, but let's all put together from where that number will come. What I mean by where is which airport, which city, which vertical, which trade lane. What does it need to make it happen? Otherwise, you will only be clearly shooting in the dark without any direction in terms of saying is that, okay, the minister will come and say, oh, you should do this and we'll be all happy about it. But I think the key to this will be the execution at a ground level.
Thank you so much. Atul, I'll come to you and you bring the government perspective. I was some time back, I was in a session, you made a very good presentation over there. I'm not saying how the government is doing this, but from a government perspective, our minister was there this morning talking about how they want to be an equal partner, facilitator. I mean, where do you see this vision of 2030? Of course, the industry is looking at you with expectant eyes. And how do you think? I mean, where are the opportunities and where you can contribute?
So Sanjeev, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for inviting me here to speak on this subject. From the government perspective, I would say, because you have already clocked 3.5, so looking at 2 jumps. So it's 1, 7, and then in an exponential matter, it goes to 14, but 7 plus 3 is only 10, right? So if you look what government is doing over a period of time, the focus is more on, to become a facilitator, what you rightly said. In fact, I go further ahead. Instead of facilitator, we actually are becoming an enabler, hand holder to the people who are new to the ecosystem. So currently, that as we all are aware that the government has set up a target of 5 trillion GDP, and how much time it takes, it's a matter of time. But we have a vision that we have to reach up to 5 trillion club. So if you want to look at at a global perspective, the globe's GDP is around 93 billion US dollars. China is 18, right? And if once we jump 5, we are either close to Japan or we surpass them in the number 3. So when from the current scenario, we are looking at a GDP where we grow up to 5 trillion club. So this 10 million is a very less number, and that 1% we are targeting. So the number looks achievable, as he has rightly pointed out that the actually deliverables need to be fixed. And especially from the government's part also, we would like to know that where are the bottlenecks you are facing as an industry and what all is to be done. Because we have done a lot of stakeholder consultation in last 2 to 3 years. where a lot of things have been reformed. So if you see the customs processes, what we have done in last 2.5, 3 years, it has changed the scenario. If you bring a person who was actually handling cargo 3 years back in India, and you bring him now, he'll see a stark difference there. If you are an AEO client, you file your bill of entry, and within minutes, there is an out of charge copy with you. You don't have to pay the duty at that point of time. You get 15 days of, time period where you can keep your cash and use it somewhere else. So government is there to enable the trade, because our target is to break into the group 3 of the GDP first, and then we have to see where we go. And very well it was pointed out that we have the 20% of global youth. So we are the producers, we are the consumers, and the world cannot run without us. So if the ecosystem is there, it's very achievable, and you have very aptly given the theme which says stimulation. So government is trying to provide an ecosystem which is stimulating this environment, and on top of that, we are trying to scale you up, to steer you in the right direction so that these goals are achieved.
Thank you so much. And I think I like that change of where you're moving from facilitator to enabler and handholder. I think that's a major shift, because just being a passive facilitator to an active enabler, I think that's the shift that the industry is looking, and you very rightly said. And I think the takeaway is there because the government also has a 5 trillion kind of a goal, and everybody wants to align with that, and I think that's one key thing that is coming out of it. Yeah. I'll come back to you with some more questions. Ramesh, before I come to you, I will just take Ramesh, because I think he's online. Can we get Ramesh on the screen? Oh, he's there behind Ramesh. So, Ramesh, you've heard the context, I think the session that we're talking about cargo deliverables. Just wanted to understand as opening remarks, I mean, what is your vision of achieving the 10 million tons as we talked? You are a very important part in the cargo supply chain, and what do you think are the key opportunities from where you're sitting, and how do you think you can contribute to achieving it? We can't hear you, Ramesh. I think you're on mute, maybe.
Am I clearly audible? Can you all hear me, Sanjeev? Just wanted to make sure.
Just a moment, Ramesh. We can't hear you.
Obviously, the 12 million tons now, COVID the impact adjusted, possibly stands at 10 million. If you personally ask me, 10 million is easily achievable. That is what I've heard everybody saying. I think the opportunity is actually much more. From the point of view of where the opportunities are, I think many of us have talked about it. There are multiple opportunities in the form of exports of perishables, export of textiles, electronics, which is growing in the country, pharmaceutical, which obviously many airports have benefited from. But then more importantly, I think the growth from where we are currently, which is 3.5 million tons to 10 million, is going to come from transshipment as the opportunity that we need to look at. I personally believe in it, because I saw some airports that I worked in the past have benefited from huge amount of transshipment. Dubai is where I worked in. Emirates Airlines has almost 87% of the total volume. EK does about 2.5 million tons in Dubai airport. 87% actually comes from transshipment. Unless and until we actually grow the airports to become that level, the 10 million may not be achievable, but we are on the right track in terms of developing that process as well. The other opportunity that we need to look at, especially for airports such as Navi Mumbai, that Adani Airports is developing, multi-modal transshipment is also a possibility. So transshipment within which multi-modal, sea air, surface to air to surface, I think these components of air cargo have tremendous opportunity to grow. But I would like to give you one more insight as an airport handler. I've been in the industry for almost 27, 28 years now. I think if you look at as we talk about 10 million tons, if you look at the cargo handling capacity of the airports in the country, we stand at about 4 to 4.5 million tons, right? So which means for us to get into 10 million tons, the capability which Satish talked about, it is very important that whether we handle at the airports or we handle away from the airport, somewhere the capacity in terms of the cargo handling, airport cargo handling related activity capacity for that has to be built. So we need to be looking at building this 5 to 6 million tons handling capacity somewhere, and obviously in the airports or slightly away from the airports. Now that is a reality. What is the cost of building it? The cost of building that will be anywhere from 2,250 crores to 2,500 crores. So that is obviously a tall mark. And if you look at the entire airport cargo handling market size today, that possibly stands at about 1,800 crores. This is my estimate. It's not coming from any consultant's report. It should be in the range of 1,800 crores at this stage. So when the market hits the 10 million tons, that market size is expected to grow up to 6,000 crores. You see the investment opportunity and you see the revenue earning opportunity. Obviously, most of the cargo handling operators are also fairly profit-making organizations. So there is a big opportunity, even from the airport handling point of view, where the investment has to get in and where the growth opportunity in terms of revenue growth is possible. So I'm quite excited. I think to me it is very possible. From the airport cargo handling point of view, I know where the capacity has to be built, where I need to facilitate the growth to happen. Back to Sanjeev. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you. And thank you for putting the number in perspective. So we're looking at about 2,500 crores investment on the outer side, but the revenue opportunity is almost 6,000 crores what comes to. And thank you for articulating very clearly, that there are areas to work on, transshipment, multimodal. I'll just come back a little, go a little deeper into those questions we talked about. But Kamesh, over to you. I mean, you're also a very important part of the supply chain. What is your vision? How do you think you can contribute to achieving, and where are the opportunities?
Thanks, Sanjeev. Can you hear me? Yeah. Thanks, Sanjeev. Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here amongst all of you. The question that you have spoken is quite pertinent in terms of the theme that we have about moving from where we are to 10 million tons. So we've heard a lot since this morning directly from the minister and also the other industry players out here. So I would see the 10 million tons in the context of what the country wants to achieve in terms of growth. So India wants to be a $5 trillion economy. We want to get to a stage where we are going to be the third largest aviation country in the world. We will be looking at promoting exports from what was recently achieved, and ease of doing business is also something that would be at the forefront of changes that are going to happen, positive changes that are going to take place. So in the context of what the country has set for itself as growth aspirational targets, the number of 10 million seems to be in sync, and it is something which is achievable, as a lot of people earlier have said. It's just a question of looking at what is the strategy. So we know the current volumes are a third of what we are aspiring for by 2030. So we know where we are, we know where we want to go. So the question is, what is the strategy? How do we get there? So to look at that, I would look into the demand side and also the supply chain to address some of the areas which have to be addressed, and through this, there will be the opportunities that would come out. So on the demand side, we have the single-digit demand, which grows on a year-on-year basis on the international side, domestic side. But I believe the real demand which has not been tapped to the potential is the transit volumes. So transit is an area which we need to work more. If I take the example of Delhi Airport, we do less than 10% of transit volumes compared to what Ramesh just mentioned, what happens in Dubai, which is almost 80%. So there is a lot to be done as far as the transit volumes and the upliftment of transit volumes is concerned. And the transit volumes don't necessarily have to come from the different geographical locations within the country. It could also be from the neighboring countries, for instance, Bangladesh, Nepal, Vietnam. These are smaller nations who have limited network, and if there is a possibility for us to leverage their volumes added to our network, this would add to the transit volumes. So we also can look at the hinterland capacities using AFS as an opportunity. We look at intermodal, multimodal solutions. All of it is about bringing the volumes to a particular gateway from where we are able to uplift. So it's not the traditional international and domestic volumes, but we are also trying to address the transit volumes, and that is going to be addressed. Then the growth from a single digit around 9%, which is currently what is in place, the 13.5% growth, which is required to reach to the 10 million figure, is possible. What that was the demand side of it. Now on the capacity or the supply side of it, we know that most of the volumes that are uplifted, air cargo volumes, are on the passenger belly capacity. Almost 80% of the volumes are uplifted on the passenger capacity. Now we saw what COVID did in terms of that capacity, and we were challenged. But the best thing was that the situation was dealt in a manner where the freighter operations took over. And if Delhi were to be another example, from our 10,000 ATMs before the peak COVID, we were doing almost 2.5 times 25,000 ATMs. And that was a huge advantage that we were able to get in terms of the freighter operations. And I think this needs to be promoted, because the passenger capacity in the future, or fastest to be a consideration, will grow at the rate of 6 to 8%. If we are going to grow at a rate of 13% in terms of the demand, then there is a clear delta, and that delta has to be covered by adding more capacity, and that would only be possible through freighters, both scheduled and non. And therefore, it is very important that government is enabling open sky policies to make the freighter movement more possible, and that would take care of essentially of the supplies or the capacity side. Now, we can also look at some of the opportunities which would emerge as a result of the demand and the supply, and that would be trying to look at airports being developed as hubs in the true sense of the word. So it's not just about point-to-point transfer, but we could look at, and we have some good airports in north, west, east, and south of the countries. We could look at some important airports to be picked as hub airports, from where we would be able to connect not just the tier 2, tier 3 volumes, which the minister was talking in the morning. We could also connect to the other neighboring countries and be in a position to have a greater uplift possible from these hubs. So looking at transshipments, looking at freighters, looking at airport hubs, these are some of the but then along with that, there would be a couple of other things which are required to be happening, and the opportunity lies in the government looking at the policies, reworking them, making it more user-friendly. There's a huge influence that customs can have to make these things possible, to make it seamless, paperless. And I think in that sense, there's a lot that needs to be done as a complete ecosystem, where also the trade and the fraternity have to invest, not just in terms of infrastructure and capital, but also in terms of human capital, by looking at upskilling the workforce, by looking at the trainings, and trying to bring the industry to a level and recognition which is at par with some of the other industries which are basically being driven and grown as a result of technology. So these are some of the thoughts that I think, and we as a terminal operator could contribute in terms of improving the infrastructure and making sure that we are able to size up the infrastructure in terms of the demand and make sure that is available at all times. Speed, efficiency, consistency, and transparency in terms of how we operate is something that we should be able to bring forward from our side to be able to contribute to the growth story.
Sure. Thank you. I will come back on the efficiency part, but you touched upon, one of the elements which is about, government and technology and paperless. I'll just come back to Atulji. You've talks about the government being as an enabler. So can you tell us, some throw light on what the government is doing in terms of technology to actually, play that role, improve ease of doing things, going paperless?
So, as I was mentioning that if somebody who has landed in India and clearing a cargo after 3 years, he'll see a lot of change. So earlier, if the people are aware that how the processes were and how the processes have evolved, what we did is, if around 1.5 years back, we floated a survey across all the stakeholders that what are the pain points and where do you want a solution from the government. That survey is still available on the IceGate website. If you go, you can read it. It's Manthan. So there we got to know that there are problems where people issue their grievances and they are not settled at that point of time, which at end of the day is increasing the cost for the trade. Second, they wanted a better connectivity within the systems where the numbers are generated quicker. And there are multiple processes where still they have to hop from one office to other office, and they can't get a one-stop solution. So looking into that, what we did is first our concern was to address the actual user, because end of the day they are the guys who are bringing in the goods and they are the ultimate beneficiaries. So we over a period of 6 months we crystallized all the processes, whether it was import or whether it was export, and it was well crystallized, and even a very small problem was broken into a very small process, and it was defined that what actual solution should be given. Going ahead, we did a data analytics of around 2.5 years of our data of the tickets or the problems raised by the user, that what are their frequent problems. And on the basis of that, we classified the problems into two categories, where one category was that can I do something to help the user himself. So around 40% of my problems were where I can just empower the user that you take this, you initiate this request, you get this request, you don't have to come to customs. So a lot of things were given there. Then what was happening if a grievance comes, and then actually the technical teams who are writing the codes, they were using to fix the solution. So we enabled our front, the L1, what you call in the trade, the people responding to the trade. We empowered them with certain tools where they can straight away resolve that problem. So if today I'm sitting here and my phone is not ringing, that gives me a symbol that my application is running very smooth and we are handling all the filings across the country without any glitch. So this is what we did for the re-engineering, what we call in the private sector, we call it business process re-engineering. So we did it, and a good now the trade is facing no problem. There are problems we are looking into how to identify. Coming to the technology, when in 2018 or 19, I think we were still working on the systems of control table and schedulers. People from technology will understand. And it had a backlog of around 7 days. So whenever a data, let's say, is generated by DGFT, where they issue a code, they issue a license, around 7 days it took to come to customs and then integrated in the system, and then somebody could file a import declaration. Similar was the case with GSTN. Once a GSTN is issued, it has to come. Similar for the PAN. So gradually, with APIs coming in, currently IceGate works completely on APIs. The moment anything is issued, whether it is IEC, where it is a license, GSTN, a license for import of any kind of a category, we just ingest it, and at that point of time, you can file your import declaration and get your good cleared. On the export side, I heard to the earlier panel for the garments. So the garments is a very big focus for government, and we are trying to bring in more and more schemes. That recently ROSCTL and RODTEP was launched. These schemes, again, the technology is here, where these schemes were issued by DGFT Commerce. You have to take that script, you come to customs, you have to use it to import and get your goods cleared. Now on IceGate, you can generate your script on the basis of exports you have done. You can use it there, and if you don't want, you can transfer it to someone else. So it's just a one-point solution. You don't have to hop from one office to other office to third office. So this we have done to reduce the cost. Similar kind of for export, we have brought in imports of goods at concessional rates. It was a scheme earlier, but now it's completely digitized. You just have to apply online, you get all the benefits, and you don't have to rush from office to office. So these are few things. It's a long list. If I go on, then it will take a lot of time, and I don't want to take others' time. So this is how we are evolving. Customs as such, as I earlier mentioned, the stimulation is already there, and the target is to hit that 5 trillion. And if I have to hit 5 trillion, 30% of that 5 trillion is generally an import-export in anywhere of that GDP. On this 30%, currently we handle around 50,000 filings every day. So for me, the challenge is to scale in such a manner that I am able to handle all these filings without a glitch. My system can't stop even for a second. And I can state very proudly that for last many years, we are running a system which has not even shut down for a second, even during the COVID times. So government has realized that what technology can do. It has brought us closer, and actually now we are harping a lot on technology to reduce the compliance cost for the trade.
Thank you so much. It's very reassuring, and I think you made a very good example. Yes, I think this does need a big round of applause because, thank you so much. Because, I mean, and simple observation, as you very rightly said, your phone is not ringing. We've had, previous meeting with customs officers, and sometimes, they walk out of a meeting and something has gone broken down somewhere, but I think, we can really vouch for it. So things are changing for sure. I will just, from a technology side, I'll very quickly switch to Ramesh for a moment because, we talked about, you talked about the transshipment and you talked about Emirates doing 87%. Of course, Emirates has got a big hub in Dubai and, everything concentrated there. But even still, even if you were to pick other examples, Ramesh, I mean, still transshipment can be in the range of 40 to 50% of what the total, airport volumes are. Whereas our airports, I think Delhi would be on the higher side, still it is less than 10%. So I think that perspective of, growing transshipment, what do you think are the ideas you can drive that? And there is a benefit to it. Obviously, there is a benefit. And sometimes, we really need to understand because when you're bringing transshipment, you're bringing more air freight capacity into the country. You've got more freighters coming in and capacity coming in. Obviously, leads to, yields going down for the O&D market. So there is an upside to it. But how do you think we can drive this? What are your ideas around growing the transshipment as well?
Yeah, thank you, Sanjeev. It is a very, very interesting discussion because one of the most mature hubs in the world today is Dubai, and I was very fortunate that I was part of the team that actually implemented many processes and systems in making that hub very, very successful. That was 10 years ago. Since then, the hub obviously progressed a lot. But then, just to cover a few details, how refined the transshipment process can be and how technologically advanced the transshipment process will be. In Dubai, 10 years ago, obviously from then it would have advanced. So we had multiple products within transshipment. We had something called QRT, quick ram transfer, wherein within QRT, you had connections that had to happen within 3 hours. If it happened to be perishable or any other quick connections, premium, for example. So such connections actually would help the airlines to command the premium or get paid premium from the freight forwarders. Then there are connections that can happen 6 hours on the ramp, QRT 6 hours. Then there are quick warehouse transfers, connections which can happen between 6 hours and 12 hours within the warehouse. Then there are connections that can happen beyond 12 hours time. So how, in terms of the classification, how this transshipment can happen, within the airport itself. And very, very importantly, at the time of accepting a shipment at the origin, if it has to go through Dubai, the airline needs to have the capability to define a transportation cycle, which would kind of very clearly define as to how quickly and how between which flight and which flight the connections have to be made, talking about technology. And that information, how that information can be passed on to customs so that customs get informed well in advance so that it is not coming as a surprise to them. This is one detail there. The second detail in a place like Dubai, unlike what unfortunately happens in India, customs reconcile, it may be happening on the ports. That's what we heard about 6-7 years ago when we were kind of debating with customs the process that is required for transshipment. Customs in Dubai reconciles the incoming flight manifest with the outgoing manifest. So anything which is not matching is assumed to be in the warehouse. Once in a while, randomly they carry out inventory to see if the shipment's reconciliation is in line with what their system says. It is as simple as that. There is no need to actually file, the transshipment manifest for every single flight every single day. So as opposed to that, a couple of years ago, when we were trying to implement some of these the success stories that we experienced in the past in Delhi in my previous life, for one of the airlines, we were working with the airline to develop the transit process. We had the transit shipments coming into the warehouse taking about 20 hours, from the aircraft into the warehouse. And in the warehouse, because of whatever regulatory framework that we had at the time, from then obviously it got simplified. We needed to spend about 15 hours in terms of sorting all that out from the warehouse and then back to the outbound flight. So the transit process was actually taking 35 hours. We worked with the airline, we worked with the process in the terminal, and we managed to bring it down to, from 35 hours, we managed to bring it down to 12 hours. But then, hear me out, 12 hours is also not competitive enough for airlines to compete or airports to compete to develop transit hubs, successful transit hubs. So there is a lot to be done. From my experience, I think we made a good beginning in some airports. Some airports have done very well. What used to be 2%, which one of these speakers mentioned about. Now, some airports are actually running almost 10% transit volumes out of their international volumes, which is a big progress. But then if you look at 80-85%, there is a lot to go. And that may not happen. If that doesn't happen, obviously 10 million tons will remain as a dream. So we need to seriously work on it. To me, the necessary components will be technology integration, airlines, all the stakeholders, airport operators, the ground handlers, cargo terminal operators, and the regulatory agents such as customs and security. I think we need to have the complete integration and seamless transfer of data and the approval process across all the stakeholders in terms of use of technology. The second one, obviously, is developing infrastructure. The QRT, QWT that I've talked about, these need to have dedicated facilities. We cannot run a normal cargo terminal also supporting transit-related process. These need to be defined. For example, something that is transiting in Dubai, which is meant for North America, has to be possibly screened. And if that has to be connected within 3 hours, believe you me, there is a facility that actually takes care of the entire screening of cargo within 3 hours as well, which means you need to custom develop the facilities for the products that you want to support in your hubs. So infrastructure development, like some airports already have done, airside transshipment facility. But within that, the capacity has to be a lot better, technology has to be a lot better, equipment needs to be better, including security-related equipment. I think infrastructure-wise, we have to do a lot to catch up, to make sure that we support the growth of the transit, the process and the shipments. And then, obviously, I think what we are actually what we've been saying is, I think across the country, there is a need to develop a transshipment process, including the regulatory framework. I think that is absolutely a must at this stage. I know ministry has been working on it. I was also part of some of the work groups that worked on the process. Maybe we have the process in place, but that has to be revised, that has to be reviewed rather, and then implemented across the country as a one standard process with one standard regulatory framework as well. So many countries have done it. We can do it. I think we have some homework that has already been done. We need to basically take it forward and make sure at least 4 or 5 major airports in the country implement them to ensure there is growth in transit cargo in the country. Back to you, Sanjay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ramesh. And I think, Atulji, probably we maybe don't need an answer from you, but this is something that you can take back. One thing which is coming up very clearly is that transshipment needs a good technology solution. And whereas, other countries are actually having online reconciliation, I hear we're still a little bit on the archaic model of, actually getting TP manifest submitted. And if you want to respond, you can, please.
So, as he mentioned, we are working on that air regulations on the manifest. And let's see for the port, they have a port community system, right? On all the major ports. Yeah. And we are very seamlessly integrated with them and we are sharing this. If somebody from your this forum can give us a blue paper that there are all airport community systems being used across all the ports, right? Okay. So what integration we can do with them, and with that can solve all this, the physical movement, a lot of movement, which you are doing with the airport authorities and what is going with the customs. So it seamlessly comes to me, I gave them a response, and that makes your life easier.
Sure. So thank you. I think maybe there are some of the tasks which ACFI will probably take over. And before I actually ask more questions, I have a few more, but I think we'll just open it for a moment to the audience. I think I see a few questions. And there is also a portal where you can actually log in your questions. I will just in a moment go and take the questions which are there. But in case anybody from the audience has a question, yeah, we've got a few here. Maybe ladies first, so Sakshi can please take the mic. Is there a mic over there? Yeah.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Sakshi Gupta from Air Logistics. My question is to Atulji. There's a common thread which is through all the sessions is technology and paperless. So this is regarding IceGate. The topic is new airline registration. Today, there is a host of papers, a list which is required to be submitted first to CRU, it goes to the appraiser, then the inspectors, and then finally it's like a ping pong ball, then to new custom house, back to the CRU, and finally it takes about 20 days, actually with experience, before it reaches IceGate on a pen drive, and after that, IceGate reverts back to new custom house, giving their approval or asking for another document. So my thing is, when eventually it's on a pen drive, why cannot we, by technology, submit with total transparency all the documents to a new custom house and reaches IceGate? So there is, we save a lot of time. There is total transparency, and then we get the new airline gets to operate ASAP. And there is one registration with EDI, which is pan-India, so that again and again, we do not have to submit those papers. And two, if it's a GSA representing multiple airlines, when the GSA papers are already submitted once and they are common, we can have a data bank where they are already saved instead of repetitive submissions again and again and a lot of paper involved. And it's a lot of delay in getting the permit. So over to you, Atulji.
So on this GSA, you have raised 2 points. One is the delay in the number generation, or
Correct.
we called it a code creation for your airlines, right?
Yes.
And second is multiple GSA if he has to file the same document if the same GSA is there. So first, I'll say on the second part, what we need is then on this we need support from your again the forum. That do you have a bank of a GS who are actually working and authorized? Because here the Civil Aviation Ministry also comes into play, and then for me, if it's a centralized bank where this number is there, it's very easy for me to integrate and get that data, right? Instead of integrating with one-to-one, it's very difficult. Second, if Civil Aviation can do, you can take it up with them. You can let us know. We don't have a problem. And what I have felt that especially in GSA, the regulations are not very clear. And in fact, if you have any SOP of how GSAs operate, what are their requirements, how, what are the steps involved? It's very vague, what I understand. So because sometimes we see that the two agents are running for the same flight, right? So that becomes very difficult, and they start fighting that I have applied first, they have applied second. Why did you get this code to someone else? So there is some confusion. Sure. If that is crystallized, clarified, then we can put in a system in place for this, right?
Thank you. Does that answer your question?
Yes, the second one, yes, because GSAs basically represent airlines. So on behalf of the airline, we are basically applying for the EDI registration. And of course, it would be to Yash and Cyrus, so that since Atulji has said, so that the forum takes it up, so that we have a crystallized SOP, so that, year on year, we are facing this, and it is going to continue until and unless we put it forth and we get a streamlined process. And the first question is that the paperwork is, kind of, nipped.
So once this is there, we can think of what best solution we can provide to you, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, great. So I think, so ACFI will take it up, and I think I can speak on behalf of Cyrus and Yash, but we'll also need some help. Maybe help us, address your pain points and, what's the process, and then probably we'll take it up and
Absolutely. So I'll have it documented, and I'll probably give it to one of the managing committee members.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll just come to, maybe Arun, you can then take it, and then I'll come here.
My question again is to Atulji. Ye dil mange more. We do understand that lot has been done, and particularly during the pandemic time, outstanding. And we have acknowledged that on multiple forums. But the thing is, the world is changing very fast, and the technology is the driver. For whatever reason, it is our perception that DG system has lagged behind. Either the focus is lost, we get into developing one process, leave it halfway through, get into something else, leave it halfway through. So we have a khichdi of everything, but nothing is working. So is there some sort of a roadmap that the customs is having for, taking care of this increase in demand of technology side?
I think maybe yeah. So address this two part. The first is the point you mentioned that we start and end. To make everyone aware, as I said, 50,000 filings we are handling in a day, right? And if you take that filing, there are five major events to each filing. First is your number generation, second is your assessment examination, third is your duty payment. If export, then export benefits. Fourth is your some external agencies reports. And last is sharing your data with external agencies. So 50,000 into 5, how much it is?
I get it. That's exactly my point.
That's 250,000, right? In a day, I get a problem tickets for only 250 cases. What is my percentage?
I totally get that one part.
Just tell me. I just want to hear this from you.
I think, Arun, we are testing your maths.
Yeah.
I'm very bad at math, by
So
the
this
way.
is 0.01.
Yeah.
My system runs at 99.99% of success rate. And thus, you cannot make a complete statement that somewhere DG systems has lost. Because if I'm operating at 99.9% currently, sitting here peacefully, so I think there are systems in place, number one. Number two, coming to the technology shift, do you want to bring me a technology what income tax did last month and there was a 1 month of havoc? Do you want to do that? I'm ready to do that. Is the trade ready for that kind of an experience? I can bring a technology and 1 month you all guys can suffer. Do you want that? Or we want a gradual increase, which we are doing. Now you will take on the vision, we have IceGate 2.0, we are going to replace it. You will have, the focus is on the importers and exporters because they are the core clients for us. We'll provide them a lot of functionalities. Chatbots will be coming in, then the technology refresh is going in. Only the biggest challenge for us is the system which we are operating is a 26 years old system, which is evolved over a period of time. So we have to, the technology we are bringing in the most latest technology what Amazon or Flipkart is using, which is containers and microservices. But I have to ensure that I don't deliver a technology which is not serving your purpose. It's already under testing. I think a lot of people are aware, maybe not here. They are testing it and they are giving a feedback which we are trying to improve. So gradually, we want to take a pace where gradually shifts are taken. And there is a roadmap for technology upgrade. Because we have to meet, end of the day, if your cargo is not cleared, anything will not.
I think, so I think we will have a special session with customs once, but there is lots which has moved, so thank you for that. And I think there is always that, as Arun was saying, the anticipation for more. So, but if there's a non-technology question, can we take any non-technology question?
Sanjeev, I would just, since morning we have been talking about transshipments, you, me, and Mr. Ramesh Mavidala started this project of transshipment. Ramesh is here, he's nodding, many years back, because we discussed and discussed and discussed, and we knew that we cannot grow tonnage from Delhi airport and other airports unless the smooth transshipment system comes into the effect. Now, even the minister in the morning said 10 million. How would you arrive at 10 million without having the flawless transshipment facility and the system? It cannot work. Till the time the transshipment facilities are there. And since the time Ramesh ji has gone from here, it is all static. I don't see any push from the present terminal operators. Kamesh is sitting here, and it is there where it was. The transshipment, it has to be flawless.
Sure, so I think
even Atulji is here. Yeah. Atulji, till the time we evolve a system where the domestic to international and international to domestic.
Sir,
There is a-
maybe if you have a question, we will take it, or maybe in the interest of time, I'll have to move ahead. So point taken, I think.
I'm
there's
coming
more
to the
which need-
I'm coming to the point what just Sakshi has raised.
Yes.
Also, Atulji is here. This is very correct that there is a lot of, it takes, the airlines take a lot of time to, register themselves. You just said that there is some confusion when many people apply. The confusion is only when the airline is not clear. If the airline is giving different areas to different people, then everybody creates a confusion. So once the airline gives a contract to one main guy who registered himself in the customs here, then it should work automatically.
I think we'll address it as part of the SOP, sir. I think that's what the suggestion has come from Atulji. We'll do that, sir.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I just have a couple of more. I will come
Sanjeev,
back to the.
unless we are serious about working together on transshipment, this is not going to work.
We'll do that, sir. Point taken.
Yeah.
Sir. I'll just come back, Satish, to you actually. I know there's a lot of technology, but technology we're talking more on the regulator side. But you have done some good stuff on technology, and you're kind of reinventing the thing and saying that how do we look things in a new perspective. So tell us, I mean, the innovation that you're bringing in technology. I mean, what is it? How is it going to really will it contribute to this growth? Is there something different that you're thinking of?
I think what we realized as an organization was that since I've been around 30 years in the industry, most of us buy the software from somewhere or technology from somewhere, who probably is more a tech person in terms of some bit of understanding. But we found the need that someone like us who had the bandwidth also to really use advanced technology. What I mean is that we're using artificial intelligence, machine learning, all those things which including robotic process automation. What I mean is that today there's a lot of work that we do in the freight forwarding industry which is manual, and right from tracking a shipment to the rest of them. Two, we don't use historical data really in the right way in terms of it. For us, every shipment is a new story or a new movie. But there is an opportunity which I think a lot of us were missing it, and I spoke about this even 4 years ago in Chicago, India's one of the interviews in terms of how blockchain can be used, and we did not see much that had happened at that point of time. So I got this opportunity with our founders, Ram and rest of them. So now what we are actually doing is that we are a full stack digital forwarder. What that basically means is, I think a lot of people get confused that we are a marketplace. We are not a marketplace for the first thing. What we are basically doing is using technology, we are creating visibility end to end. And like what Atul is talking about is our APIs can be linked to any of the service providers, which means today if there is a GPS service provider, he can integrate with my system. So I'm creating a platform where you don't need to really come on my platform and you have to be on my platform and spend money. But even a smallest of player, tomorrow we will offer a white label sort of a solution to our customers where there are a lot of custom brokers today who are in the unorganized market. They can't afford the high-end technologies really. How do you allow those marketplace people to be piloting on a platform at a cost-effective way? The last thing that is it today, all of us know that storing of your documents is a big thing in the customs industry. Cloud is where you have a great opportunity. So what we do is we give you free access to the cloud and you can store your documents on my cloud for life free. Now that's what technology can really do is, why do we want to really, have huge papers and rest of them? The last thing that we do is that Dr. Ravi Prakash Mathur talked about Uberization. I'm not talking about Uberization, but what I'm talking about is that the ease at which you can do a shipment today should be the pleasure of a customer. The end of the day, whatever technology we are bringing in today is the ease at which a customer can experience. Today, why do we go to Amazon or anyone? Is that the ease at which you go to Blinkit today. You order Nimbu, the Nimbu comes in 9 minutes, it tells you its visibility in 9 minutes. But today in the freight forwarding industry, you don't have that visibility. Admit it or not, everything is linked to someone else. We don't know where our custom is. It's a passenger will shout, but where does the cargo shout? I think that's the end of the day, that is what we are trying to do, is to get a complete visibility from the origins till the final place, using technology to the best of the ability possible. And that is what I'm excited about, is that not being 30 years in the industry, but building it from India, from Chennai, is what really excites me in terms of using the technology.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think, thank you. I mean, I was also under the impression that this is a bigger marketplace, but I think, thank you for clarifying that there's one element of it maybe, but you're actually a digital forwarder. So it's, I will just take some questions which have come online. Before I do that, Kamesh, one question to you. You know, we've talked a lot about efficiency and we talked about transshipment and other things, but, the terminal operators play a very important role in driving efficiency. I mean, end of the day, actually, I can say the buck stops there, so how fast you can process everything kind of revolves around that. So what is your thoughts on how you can benchmark what you're doing in terms of improving those efficiency standards?
Thanks, Sanjeev. Before I answer that question to Mr. Wadhwa's point about transshipment and how we're not doing enough to promote it, I just need to mention also that transshipment is not just about the infrastructure at the airport. It's also to do with the policies and the regulatory compliances. And unfortunately, that's yet to be worked. It still needs to be developed. And in the recent times, we've actually had situations where some of the regulatory requirements force us to do things in a much more slower manner. And this is not really helping the product transshipment per se. So if this product can be worked on together with the authorities, and we have a process in place which is seamless, which has less of paperwork, it can be electronically performed, I'm sure there's a huge opportunity in terms of promoting the transshipment volumes. That was to that point. Now, coming to your point about the service delivery and what role the terminal operators can play, for us, basically, a cargo handler does the landside handling of the freight which comes from the origin, carried by a freight forwarder, a transporter comes to the terminal. And we are a niche segment of the supply chain, in the sense that we are the ones who convert a cargo which is on the land to be making it airworthy, so that it is being able to transport to the point of destination, to the point of transit, wherever that requires to be sent. So in our case, the areas that we can really focus and what we tend to contribute is towards speed, efficiency, and consistency. The important thing is to make sure that we have performing our activities based on processes, standard operations, standard operating processes, make sure that these are reviewed from time to time, these are continuously improved, because at the end of the day, most of our customers are global players, and some of the local players are also having the global exposure. So it's quite normal for them to compare our performance compared to the other terminals existing in the, in the global scenario. And therefore, comparisons are quite normal. We, being part of an international organization, and also we are participating in a lot of the trade bodies, we do contribute and we do also listen to what gets discussed there. And we try to imbibe in our operations the best practices that are already being followed. But while we do that, we also keep into consideration the fact that we are working in a different environment. The local environment also has to be taken into account, given the requirements that the law of the land forces us to accept. So we are looking at the best practices on the international level, try to bring them into our terminal, but also make sure that we are mindful of the local ecosystem. And that's the kind of a combination that we try to bring in. So what we do from our side is to make sure that the infrastructure is always available in terms of meeting the growing demand. What we try to do is to make sure that the speed and efficiency is improved on a continuous basis. We try to make information as transparent as possible. And the important thing is also to make sure that our staff are well trained, well qualified, and they understand the processes. Things don't happen because of coincidence. It happens because of a well-defined process.
Sure. Right.
And therefore, it is important for us to make sure that we are operating in a system which is continuously improving in terms of speed, efficiency, and consistency is the key words.
Thank you.
Last thing which I want to leave behind as a thought is the kind of activities that we do has a huge amount of safety element to it. So the safety compliances and safety management system is also core to our heart, combined with quality assurances. that we have for internal reasons and also for external reasons. So overall, these are some of the areas that we as a terminal operator tend to work on a regular basis and try to continue to improve them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amish. I'll just take.
Sanjeev, can I suggest one small thing? I think this a time has come where both the terminal operators have to seriously create separate teams to develop transshipment business.
Thank you.
It's a very serious business, and please, we have to be serious about it. Thank you.
Yeah, Yash has a question. I'll take a couple more because I know lunch is waiting and I don't want to hold you for too long. Yeah.
Thank you, Sanjeev. I have something for Atulji also to take back. So basically, we are living in a data world. I mean, technology is driving everything. And we are living in a data world today where data needs to move. So ACFI is creating a data vision, which we will probably announce very soon. The thought that I wanted to share here is that everything starts from data originator. So who originates the data, which is the shipper. So it's a request from our side right up front here that if at the origin, the shipper, if the standardization of a document could be done in a digital format, then the entire flow of the data could flow right from there to destination in a very seamless manner. And what Satish just spoke about in API integration. So you could API integrate everything, there will be no duplication of data. So this is just that the data originator, if that can be digitalized, just like GST, the invoicing can be done from there in a digital format. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we welcome comments. So it's not always about questions. If you have a great suggestion, and you're not here on the stage, it's your opportunity. You can make the comment. Yeah, please, Vipinji. Yeah, but we'll still get a mic for you.
Sanjeev, I want to update the forum.
Yeah, I'll just come to you.
Yeah.
Basically, it is just, first of all, compliment to all of you for a wonderful session and especially Custom. I am totally with you. For last 26 years, I have been also associated with Customs as well on this platform. But just a small suggestion that this 10 million vision to 2030, I think we have to divide it into three parts. We all know that we are traveling between 3 to 3.5 million tons so far in last 5 to 7 years. I think our target should be pick up 1% ocean freight because the name itself sounds ocean. So we can always pick up 1% from there and convert it into air. So that becomes double the tonnage. I think we have to change, not that I am not hopeful or passionate about this vision, but we can have 10 million. But I think we should try to pick up 1% from ocean and try to convert the rest of the thing which is coming from transshipment and all. This is what a small comment, because if we just try to focus GDP, double GDP, this and that, I'm sorry, probably we will all live till 2030, but it will be a difficult target. So I think we have to change our vision. 10 million remains 10 million, but like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for a great suggestion, and thank you for being brief. I think somebody who can say it in 10 words will clap for you actually. Yes.
I will try to do
your
that.
Opportunity to be clap for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I am Selva Kumar, COO from I-Class. Ramesh has touched the cargo handling capacity of the terminal operators. He was telling around 4 to 4.5 million metric ton we are having the capacity. I want to update the forum. Already, pan India, we are having 6.5 million metric ton capacity. This is only the air cargo terminal operations. And I have not taken into account the air freight station. But last week when we having the brainstorming session with the ministry, whether this can be achieved. The National Air Cargo policy outlined when we declared 2019, this 10 million metric ton was targeted for 2027. In fact, ACFI has taken the lead by taking this COVID period into account. They have postponed that 10 million metric ton to 2030. And when we have analyzed all these situations, whether already we are having the capacity to handle and what are the components involved, and rightly HNCA today he has pointed out by adding Jivar, MOPA at Goa and Navy Mumbai airport, we may be, and by adding more air freight stations also, the lot of applications pouring in, we are giving the positive node for the airplane stations concept also. And by adding those things also, we will be having the cargo handling capacity of 10 million metric ton very sure. And in this I-class itself, having around 3.5 already, and we will be adding around 1.7 million metric ton capacity by 24-25. So I-class, by having this another 33 terminals, we will be adding this capacity. So 50% of the share of the handling capacity will be created by I-class. And by this one, I think we can able to achieve this 10 million metric ton by 2030.
Thank you.
Just-
Thank you, sir. I think on that note, we can conclude the session because, we've got commitment for 10 million tons of capacity being available in the country. I think, thank you, Mr. Selvakumar. And just to summarize the session, sir, I think we will, I know there are 2 more questions our panelists have and you also have, but I think for the moment, over lunch, you can please speak to any of us. We are still around, ask your questions, but I'll need to summarize now. So I think one of the key themes which is coming around is that, execution, as you very rightly said, is the key. We have a great vision. I think ACFI has been at the front of it. Also, building a roadmap. I know it's a very hard-working team, and Cyrus and Yash and the entire team. Every week, I can tell you they are working, making sure the plans are in place, the plans are reviewed. And now one suggestion which again has come, that probably we need to take another leadership role of seeing how are we progressing towards this 10 million tons. I think that's something that we need to take back. And transshipment, I think a lot of details shared by Ramesh as well, in terms of building capacity that we need to do, building products around that. And I think we have a great support, customs also coming along saying that, actually we can do away with a lot of paperwork around that so that we can ably compete with people around, the countries around us. And I think there are also some good suggestions on actually giving the white paper. So we will come back to you, sir. I think we will, definitely, we want to simplify that. But I think one of the key takeaways, and I think there's a lot of focus whenever customs is there, you take a lot of time. But my takeaway from this is, that maybe give us some more face time with you. I think the industry is always looking at more face time with customs. And if we get that, and sometimes we'll ask a difficult question, but we still love you, and we know that we can't survive without you. So please bear with us. But thank you for joining us. And thank you to each of the panelists, Satish and, Kamesh and Ramesh, joining from there. I mean, we couldn't have you here physically, but maybe next time. And thank you to the audience as well. You've been a great audience. Thank you. And for those of you who couldn't ask the question, please do write to us, and I'm sure we will come back to you with the responses. And over to you, Parth, back to you.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev and the honorary panelists for such a wonderful session, an interactive session for us. And now I will invite Mr. Abdullah Al-Khalafi, Cargo Manager, India Emirates, to please hand over the mementos to the dignitaries.
आपके भी फोटो खींचो.